I am Tanya Terry, and I work at WSFA 12 News. My hometown is Troy. There are municipal elections coming up there, too. I jumped at the opportunity, actually, to do this because this is so very important. Your leadership says a lot about your town or your city. So this is a huge decision that the people in Tuskegee and other municipalities are going to make on Election Day Tuesday. So hopefully you will exercise your right to vote. So many people have fought and many have lost their lives because of that. And what an homage to pay to those people who have gone on, including Representative John Lewis, who passed away not long ago. He was the boy from Troy, and we're so proud of him and what he was able to accomplish in his 80 years of life. So with that being said, and the welcomes already done, I'm going to tell you about the format for tonight quickly before we move on to what's going to happen. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to introduce him or herself and provide an opening statement. A question will be asked, and each candidate will get that question first in opposite order. I will start with one candidate, and then we'll go to the next candidate being first. The candidate who is asked the question first will have 2 minutes to respond. Each candidate following will have 3 minutes in which to rebut or respond to that question, and then the candidate who was asked the question first will have a minute to rebut after that. I have the discretion of allowing a second round of rebuttal. That probably will not happen. That would have to be a very difficult question and a very heated debate for me to do that. However, if any candidate is allowed a second rebuttal, all candidates must be allowed an opportunity to respond. Before I go on with how this is going to work, I am on the Facebook Live, is where we are all watching this. If you would, please invite your friends who are and your neighbors who might be out there who need this information. We won't be doing this very long, about an hour or so. This is very important information, and you need to make sure that you are informed and also your family and friends are informed. It's the Tuskegee Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Please share this so that your family and friends are aware of this. Maybe they don't watch WSFA. I can't imagine why not, but maybe they weren't and they are not informed. We want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity. They can't say, well, I didn't know about it. You can help us make that known throughout Facebook land out there in cyberspace. Okay, the order for the first candidate will be determined based on drawing numbers out of a hat, and then we will go on from there, and we'll go back and forth between those, or a coin toss or something like that. Or maybe ladies first, I'm not sure. But each candidate will have 3 minutes to provide a closing remark after that, okay? So we're going to get started here in just a moment. We're just gonna have a quick drawing to see who's gonna go first, and then that person will be allowed their 3 minutes first to introduce themselves, and then we'll go on to the next candidate and we'll proceed from there. So Wanda will be timing this, so we'll make sure that it is fair and square and everybody has an opportunity to answer the question. Now, as you'll notice, we have Roselle Chappelle Jr. up here with us, and we also have Jamel McDade. Mayor Tony Haygood was also invited. As Wanda mentioned, everybody was invited to attend. He was not able to be here because of other obligations. So we're going to proceed, and you have what number? 1. Oh, okay, so you must have 2. Yeah. All right. Okay, so we're going to keep going now. Jamel chose number 1. Roselle has number 2, so we're going to go ahead and let you start. You have up to 3 minutes to introduce yourself. However, Mr. Chappelle, you should hear this too. You don't have to take all of that time, okay? Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jamil McDade, and I am a mayoral candidate for the city of Tuskegee for the year 2020. I am a native of this community, born and raised. I have a background in business administration and management, as well as economic development trained. I also have several training and certifications in internal auditing, as well as tax preparation. I decided to throw my hat in the race because I think that it's time for us to progress and move this community forward. This will always be home for me, and I think that it's time for home to be changed and moved into the new age.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Roselle Chappelle, and I'm a candidate for mayor of the city of Tuskegee. I'm a native son born in the city of Tuskegee at Johnny Andrew Hospital. I am a graduate of Tuskegee Institute High School. I'm a graduate of Faulkner University. I have a BS in Business Administration with a minor in Business Management, magna cum laude graduate. I have multiple of certifications in municipal government and planning. I previously served on the Tuskegee City Council from 1996 to 2000. I'm the prior chairman of the Tuskegee City Planning Commission from 2002 until 2016. I'm a member of the Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church, where the Dr. John H. Curry Jr. is my pastor, the historic home of Dr. Booker T. Washington's home church. I serve as chairman of the deacon ministry and chairman of the church's finance ministry.
Well, thank you so much, both of you. Now that we know a little bit more about you, we're going to move on. I cannot stress enough, however, those of you out there watching on Facebook, please do share this with your friends and family. It's very important that we get this information out. These ladies work hard to get this together because they know how important it is to make an informed decision when you go to the polls on Tuesday. Again, those polls open from 7 until 7 this coming Tuesday, so do voice your opinion and exercise your right to vote. We're going to get started. These first questions are just some general questions to kind of let people get to know who you are as a candidate and your thought process about the community that you live in. Okay, we're going to start again with you since you chose number 1, Jamil. It is, the question is, if you could ask the other candidate a question, what would it be?
Okay.
And then you have to answer that same question.
Okay.
Okay.
What would be your ideal of progressing us into the new age? Because we have been stuck in the same thing and the same way and business as usual for many years. What would be your plan in pushing us forward?
Do I answer the question now? Well, my plan would be for moving us forward is people, process, and product. And that's what we're lacking in our city now. We don't involve enough people, processes are inadequate, and we're not delivering the services. So my plan would be to garner the support of members of the community, put together the right team of employees, and train those employees to move the city forward. There's so many things, as you've stated, that's so lacking. Our technology is behind, our computer systems are not adequate, we don't have data that's available to the citizens of information, of transparency. So I would just move us to operating in the 21st century. You know, we can't even simply get the telephone answered. So there's so many simple things that we're not receiving now.
Your turn to answer that same question.
Well, I feel like we need to do some restructuring of our internal departments as well to be able to carry out certain duties of day-to-day activities here in our community. We cannot run efficiently and effectively if we do not have well-trained individuals performing the task or the jobs. I feel that we need to be able to look at our budgetary needs to see if we can maintain those specific departments when we're doing the restructuring of our community. And when we're looking at that budget, we need to make sure, because we are limited in revenue right now, that we're forecasting out for 5 years until we are able to get industry in the community as well. Also reaching out to the people and getting them engaged. We have so many people in our community that feel hopeless. So they're not engaged in the process as much as they could be. And we have some people that are in certain areas feel like they're forgotten. We need to go to those communities and be those particular parts of the community to be able to talk with them and let them know that this is a government by the people and for the people, and we are here to serve them and their needs. So as a mayoral candidate, I will be advocating for the people in this community to make sure that they get what they deserve and their just dues.
Now, Mr. Chappelle, it's your opportunity to ask whatever question you would like to this young lady here.
Okay, thank you. Jamil, my question is this. We have ran a very positive campaign. The 3 candidates have actually ran a very positive campaign, and I want to commend you for that since you're the one present. But, you know, the citizens of Tuskegee will only elect one mayor.
Correct.
So I would like to know that if you are not selected as the mayor, would you put forth that same positive energy to moving the city forward that you have during the campaign?
Most definitely, because before I made the decision to run for mayor, I was already doing that work. And I plan to continue the work. I have some obligations and projects that are in place right now, and we have to see it through. We have to continue the work that we start. We can't start a project and then walk away because of whatever the circumstances may be. A lot of those projects stem with the health in this community as far as our health navigators that we have, because we don't have a hospital. A lot of the things that we're working on is communication and transparency work in this community because we don't have it. And it involves community engagement. So it is only fair and it is only right to continue what you start regardless of the situation, and also be of service if you can be of service to whoever is in office. But we have to realize the person that is in office have to be open to accepting the information and the help that's coming from someone that's providing it to them.
All right, Mr. Chappelle, great question you had there. Now it's your turn to answer it yourself.
Absolutely. I would be amenable to providing any assistance necessary with city government, because I've done that for the past, 18, 20 years, or most of my life. I've been active in the community, and I will continue to be active in the community. But I must concur with Jamil that it has to be the administration that's receptive to assistance, and I don't think that's been the case, I know, with the current administration.
Moving on to our second general question, what three qualities do you believe you possess that will be beneficial to the city of Tuskegee if you are elected? The three qualities you believe you possess personally that will be beneficial to the city of Tuskegee if you're elected.
If I'm elected, I will continue to be who I am. I am an open, honest, and trustworthy person. I don't meet any person that I feel like I can't talk to. So being that community advocate as I am, I will continue to be that. I will be able to make sure that I welcome them in here. Also, to be of service to the staff that is here when we're talking about collaboration and working together and how we're going to restructure things to be able to have everybody meeting together and coming together to be able to get things done. And also, I will bring my business expertise to the table to be able to work with our city manager and our other departments, because we do have to realize that we are in a city manager and council form of government, and I can only go in and assist with that. I cannot interfere with day to day, but I will be able to advocate for the people and make sure that their concerns are heard and brought back to the city manager so he can be able to make informed decisions, as well as bringing that information back to the council so they will be able to make that informed decision. So I plan on bringing fairness to the office for the people, integrity to the office for the people, and transparency. But I have a fourth quality, which is the truth, because we've been lacking the truth in this community for a very long time.
Mr. Chappelle, your three qualities that you think you possess to be Tuskegee's next mayor.
Well, integrity will be number one. My leadership skills would be second. And thirdly, my business background, and particularly because I've had so much experience dealing with planning in business, in planning and development, in time scheduling, those kind of things, meeting budgets, working with budgets of multi-million-dollar projects and managing multi-million-dollar budgets. So my business background would be the largest strength, integrity, and leadership.
Do you want to say anything in response to that, or you want to move on?
We can move on.
Okay, well, let's go on to our third question. This is another general question. Mr. Chappelle, you go first this time. What professional development activities are you proposing for the city of Tuskegee and its entities? Professional development activities.
Well, number one, many of our staff need technical training in their various areas of expertise. So technical training would be number one. Number two will be customer service training. I would like to see our city employees have what I always refer to as Chick-fil-A type service. I love Chick-fil-A food, but I go to Chick-fil-A most of the time because of the service. And that's the quality of service that our citizens deserve in our community. So I would implement technical training, Chick-fil-A type customer service, an adverse life experience type training for our employees. And what that is basically each of us are faced with different challenges in life. And sometimes we need that adverse training so that whatever affects our employees' lives, it doesn't spill over into dealing with our citizens. And the third thing would be just team building. Our community and our citizens' morale is relatively low in among our city employees, so we need to develop that team building among our city employees.
Ms. McDade?
Well, what I will bring to the table for professional development, first we will start off with an internal audit. But let me be very clear, internal auditing is not just for your finances. You do internal auditing of any management system that you have in order to make sure that it's functioning properly. So we will first start off with internal auditing of our departments. And that will then bring back us a report as to what we need to do in regards to restructuring departments or doing or providing technical training or assistance, if that's something we need to do. We need to be able to find it in the budget to be able to pay for that internal auditor to come here, and I have an idea how that could work. But we also need to look at, thirdly, is the cross-functional training of the departments. Right now, we have not enough departments to manage the things that we need in the city. So we need to be able to train our employees with other duties so they can be able to perform those things until we are able to get revenue added to the budget to be able to hire people in those particular areas. So I will work on the internal auditing process first and then receive the report so we can look at our technical training second and cross-functioning training and restructuring of the departments third.
Mr. Chappelle, you have a chance to rebut that.
I have no rebuttal.
All right, we're going to move on then. Next topic is property. Okay? And my question for you, we're going to start with you this time, Ms. McDade.
Okay.
Is please explain the abatement procedure and/or process for the city of Tuskegee and how you plan to rid the city of dilapidated properties.
Okay. First, I want to start by stating that I have to do a deeper dive into our abatement process because what I would like to do here in our community is utilize our abated properties and put them back into productive use. But that is a process, and there are laws involved by the state of Alabama that you have to follow in order to be able to do those things. So I will have to study that before I make bigger decisions. But once we get those laws into place, we can look at the abatement property list. We can partner with our university that has an architecture and construction science program. That's a partnership and a fellowship for students to get hands-on experience instead of theory to help us to go in and analyze these properties to tell us what can be demolished or what can be salvaged. We have to realize knocking down a property costs the city a lot of money. So what we're trying to do is save money and bring money in. What can we reuse to address our housing problem that we have? So I have about 3 programs that we can put in place, which is the home buyout program that takes care of the blight. We also have a rental initiative program that will help with the blight as well. And we also have the landlord tenant program that will also help with the blight because we have to hold people accountable, not just leadership, our property owners, to make sure that they are not slumlords, and if they have something that it needs to be up to code. That's a stream of revenue, but that also handle the eyesores and the blight in the community. But we have to see specifically what the law said, not just for the abatement process here in our community, but what the state says, because the state of Alabama tells you before you make any major economic development decisions in your community, you have to run it through them.
Would you like me to repeat the question, or are you
No,
ready
no,
to answer? Okay, you go ahead
I have a
then.
question. Yes, well, currently the city of Tuskegee already has an abatement ordinance in place. It's ordinance number 2004-5. I would just implement that ordinance, and the process is this. The city building inspection department, they notify the property owner that their property is not in compliance with the city's codes, and that person will have a certain amount of time to give an abatement plan as to how they intend to solve the problem with the property. So that process is generally about a 90 to 120 day process, with going back and forth with the property owner, with the building inspection department for the city agreeing to the abatement plan. If that citizen does not follow through on the plan in the time frame, then the city's obligation under the ordinance is to first get estimates to abate the property, and have the property, if it is inhabitable, it may require the property to be demolished. It may require certain things to be done to just make the property safe. Whatever the requirements are after the inspection is done, whatever cost it takes to abate it, then that cost will be billed to the property owner. If the property owner does not pay the fee that the city charged, then it's assessed to their property taxes. And then when the person pays their property taxes between October and December, then the city recovers their funds from the expenses to abate the property. We have a municipal ordinance already in place, and we have a state legislation that's been already adopted just specifically for the city of Tuskegee. So I would just make sure that the city manager follows that ordinance to the letter of the law.
Would you like to say something in rebuttal?
Yes, so in previous administrations, if that is the process, and that has been the process for a while, why are we still looking at the eyesores that we have now? What has been the problem with enforcement of this particular ordinance to make sure that we're taking care of these things? Why hasn't that happened? Like, I've been here my whole life, and I'm wondering, why haven't some of these things taken place if we do have things on the books that will make sure that this happens?
Well, let me say this, that when I was in office 20 years ago, we cured the city of 65% of the dilapidated properties. So the problem is I left office, but that's why I'm planning on returning, and I'll follow the law and we'll get it done. And the city needs leadership and someone with the ability and tenacity to follow the law. That's why I'm here.
Moving on now to community engagement. Mr. Chappelle, we'll start with you this time. It says, as mayor, what is your plan to engage the community in city operations?
I plan to fully engage the citizens of Tuskegee in the operations of our city. And I'm asking the citizens that when you elect me as mayor on August 25th, this coming Tuesday, I don't want you to just vote for me and drop me off at 101 Funville Street and think that I'm going to solve all of the issues by myself. It's going to take community people involved. It's going to take police officers with former experience. I'm already calling upon previous law enforcement officers to help me with issues within our community. I will just create task force and committees for each area of government where there's a need. We have, a wealth of experience, of knowledge of retired people in our community, former retired employees of our city, and I will just engage them in committees and task force to help us move this community forward.
Mrs. McDade, you have 3 minutes to respond.
Well, I've already created a task force and to handle different things in this community. I've already started working with people, with the university, with students, with organizations and citizens alike. I have no problem with going out into the community and local businesses and asking them, what is it that you want to see? What do you want? And how can you help me get it done? I've already started that process. And for the most part, I've gotten the answer, no one ever asks us what we want. So now I'm asking you what you want. That's the type of person that I am. I want your voices to be heard, and if it has to be heard through me, then that's what we would do to make sure we solve these problems. Also, when I say we've already created the task force, we've already put together the meeting schedule, as well as what we're going to do in the first 90 to 120 days. The purpose of these task force is to be able to get volunteer people that are here, our students, our organizations, and other citizens to be involved in the process of growing this community. Pick your specialized area and work on that task. Actually work on that task, not we're meeting just to have a meeting, just to have a meeting. We are going to have working meetings. I've already started on the health trail. I've already started on the home trail and so many other things. So those are the things that I'm doing already with getting the community engaged. I've already have started out building the task force.
1 minute for a rebuttal, if you like, Mr. Chappelle.
No rebuttal.
Moving on then to health. That's our next topic. And we're going to start with you, Mrs. McDade. It says, how would you address the coronavirus pandemic in the city if you were elected mayor?
As I previously stated, I will provide a plan for our people in the community that is specific for Tuskegee. We know that there are state mandates, but we have to have a specific plan for our community. I am already a part of a task force here in this community, and we meet every week. We started out small, and then the group has grown. My organization, I am one part facilitator of the Movement 46. We started to provide testing for people in the community as well, because testing was so limited here at that particular time. As we've grown and things have started to take a different turn and numbers are coming in, I myself have personally walked through the housing projects and passed out coronavirus information, as well as handed out masks. Any events that I distribute, I hand out masks in the process and inform the people and educate them on what's going on. I will make sure that I am present and make sure that we are bringing all of our partners to the table, which we have them to the table now, and we meet weekly to discuss what a plan looks like for us. We are part of this task force because of the severity of the students returning here to the community, and we do not have healthcare facilities here if we should have an outbreak. So now, as we speak, instead of waiting to if I was going to become mayor, I am taking those steps right now with team members and other people at organizations and leadership right now to see how can we handle COVID-19 crisis. We've been in COVID-19 pandemic for 6 months now. So now what we're doing is playing catch up.
3 minutes, Mr. Chappelle.
Okay, thank you. I agree with Jamil that the city of Tuskegee does not currently have a plan. So the first thing that I would have done if I was a mayor, I would have instituted or created a task force regarding the CDC guidelines and regarding the COVID-19 crisis. So I would have created a task force with professionals in the healthcare industry and citizens to come up with a plan, one. Secondly, I would have ensured that all CDC guidelines was shared throughout our community, which is wearing a mask, social distancing, washing of hands, no large gatherings. I would have increased testing in our community. Also would have encouraged people that are employees that if they felt sick to stay home. Would have encouraged the same thing with other citizens that prior to them going to work, if you felt ill, do not go to work, so it would decrease the spreading of the virus. Another thing that I would have done was we have several facilities in our community. The city was gifted the Salem Nursing Home on Gautier Street. The city was gifted the Army Reserve building near the VA. The U.S. Corps of Engineers was looking for communities that would step forward and have those buildings, along with there's some buildings at the VA hospital. If those buildings were transformed into makeshift hospitals for those communities that have exceeded their bed limits, I would have offered those buildings that the city owned to the Corps of Engineers so that they could contract out and have those buildings retrofitted for hospitals. And then what that would have done is that would have put us in a better position that once the virus was over, those facilities would already be retrofitted where another hospital could have considered coming into our community as an urgent care facility, which is on my agenda for the city of Tuskegee.
Next, we have city finance and city business questions. There are quite a few of these. We're going to start with you, Mr. Chappelle. Please explain the current financial status of the city as you see it, and expound on how you propose to get the city out of the red and into the black.
Well, as I see it, the city's finances, they're just convoluted. And I can't get a very clear picture. I understand finances very well. I'm looking at the audit from 2019 now. It states that the revenue was $6,430,495. It said the expenditures were $7,778,000, $7,778,292. That left a deficit spending of $1,347,797. They transferred in $2,436,904 from restricted funds in order to give a net fund balance of $479,816. So what I see is that the city's expenditures exceeds the revenue. And there's generally only one way to always fix that, is you have to spend less money than you bring in. And you have to manage the resources, and you have to, well, you can also increase revenue. And we know that the citizens of Tuskegee, we can't stand any more increased revenues. We're paying 3% occupational tax, we're paying 10.5% sales tax, and we're paying a large fee for garbage, and we're paying an exorbitant amount for utilities. So I don't see us increasing anymore to the citizens. So the other way is just going to be to generate more businesses so we can create more sales tax revenue. But we just have to look at the total picture to try to just get a handle and prioritize the needs of our citizens with the budget. You know, I have a financial statement that's a tight-written financial statement. Business people don't like tight-written financial statements. We like statements that are computer generated, because when they're computer.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
I have to concur with Mr. Chappelle. I actually reviewed the 2017, 2018, 2019, actually 2016, 17, 18, and 19 internal audits, and we still have the same problem, the same findings. In order to combat that, we really do need to know what the true budget is in order to make those adjustments. Right now, we don't know exactly what the true budget is. In order to forecast out for 5 years, to be able to handle the wave of anything, we have to know exactly how much money we have to work with. We don't know that. I have the 2018 budget, but I have not, and the 2019 budget, but I am not for certain that that has been approved. As well as the high sales tax, it's hard to bring in more businesses with sales tax at 11.5%. It's hard to encourage our people to spend here at 11.5%. So we need to look at the sales tax that we have here with 11.5%. It's not totally the city, it's a combination of us all. We were 10, but we had an additional 1.5 added by the county as well, which made our total tax 11.5%. So we need to all go back to the drawing board to look at our finances to see exactly what we're going to do and how we're going to get over this wave as well when we're looking at our budgets. So when we're doing internal auditing for that, we need to make sure that we're taking care of our findings that we've had for the not past 4 years, but over 4 years. They're the same one: capital assets and internal controls. That's been the main finding every year. We need to make sure we look at that so we can know exactly what we're doing and where we're going and how we're going to get there. We also need to look at how our gas tax and it may lead over into another session when we talk about the roads. But the gas tax is not completely going to the roads. That's why we can't do it, because it's paying another bill. So we need to also look at where all of our money is going and how we are spending it out. And then we would be able to come up with a plan to move forward.
Would you like a rebuttal?
No rebuttal. I'd just like to just kind of finish the comment that I was making regarding that the current financial statements, they are tight-written financial statements. And business people like financial statements that are computer generated, so that means data in gives you data out, not just typed financial statements. So that's just that's a major issue for me, to get a type-written financial statement with revenues and expenses and account balances that's on a type-written document.
Thank you. Our next question again is under the topic of city finance and city business. Mrs. McDade, the city is operating with a skeleton crew. How do you plan to employ additional people, especially in the Public Works Department?
Public Works, Fire Department, Police Department, and so many other departments, we do not have the right staff. We also don't have an engineering department, which helps with economic development when it comes to infrastructure. So there are a lot of things that we need to address. In order to be able to fully staff that department, we need to go back to the previous question, which is our budget. We cannot give pay raises if the budget does not allow for us to be able to give raises. We cannot hire new people if the budget does not allow us to hire and employ new people. That is why going through the budget with a fine-tooth comb to know exactly how we're spending will help us be able to determine what direction we're going to go. We need a lot of things. We need an economic development department, not just an authority that's for the whole county, but our own department that we do not have. So we have to look at where our money is going. We have to look at ways that we can save in different departments. We have to go back and look at our cross-functioning departments. Our sanitation workers, our police officers, and so many others in this department need new facilities and new buildings to work in to be safe. Those are things we have to look at. So we have a lot of things to fix, but it all boils back down to the budget.
Thank you. And if I understand the question correctly, that we're operating with a skeleton crew, and this is particularly with our Public Works Department. So regarding the Public Works, we currently have between 8 and 10 men in Public Works. So the current leadership and current mayor, obviously they think that 8 to 10 men can regularly pick up all of our garbage on a weekly basis. They think that 6 to 8 or 8 to 10 men can pick up all of the trash and debris, the potholes, do all of the grass cutting, fix our drainage problems, our asphalt patching, carpenters and sign crews. They think that 8 to 10 men can do all of that. Well, previously, the city had about 10 different sections in our Public Works Department. We had a grass cutting crew, a garbage crew, a trash crew, a bush hogging crew, a cement and drainage crew, asphalt paving and patching crew, a landfill crew, a carpenter crew, a sign crew, and a heavy equipment operators that were assigned to each department. And we used to have about 65 men. Now, somewhere there's a good balance between the 8 to 10 that we have now and the 65 that we previously had. We probably didn't need 65. We certainly don't need 10, but we have to just assess our budget and see, based upon the services that the citizens are paying for, that we provide enough manpower or womanpower in the public works to ensure that the services that the citizens are paying for, they're receiving. We're supposed to have a weekly garbage pickup, and we're supposed to have a bi-weekly trash pickup. We're not getting a bi-weekly trash pickup. We're not getting it, probably getting it every 4 years, because I think the first time the trash has been picked up is probably in the last 3 weeks.
You do have a minute to rebut.
We've always had a shortage in the sanitation department. The sanitation department has been an ongoing problem since I've seen various articles and documents, and there's always been complaints about our sanitation departments not having what they need and not enough help and not enough workers to be able to fulfill the needs of the community. So that's always been an issue. It did not just start. We've had several strikes and back and forth. So when it comes to the plenty that we had, I don't understand how that was possible when we've always had problems with the sanitation department, from my understanding.
Do I have a minute?
You do.
Well, we haven't had always had a problem with the sanitation workers. The sanitation has always had an issue with the amount of pay, and that's why they strike, because they don't have enough money. They don't strike because we don't have enough people down there. That's not an issue. So I'm telling you, the facts are we used to have 65 people in the department, so it was never a problem with the men and having the quantity. It was the amount of pay, and that's why they were striking, because there was not enough money for them.
Would you like to say something else to that?
And the money is still an issue to this day. So we need to look at how we need to go back to the budget. We need to look at how we can get the manpower, but also pay the workers adequate for the amount of work that they do. We also need to look at capabilities, because we do have people down there that know how to do other things other than the work that they have. But here again, speaking with those workers, they said no one ever talks to them and asks them what they want or what they know how to do.
Ms. Chappelle, our next question, we're going to start with you. Currently, the mayor holds a seat on the utilities board. The rates and the cost of utilities have been a sore spot for citizens for years. What will you commit to do in making the utilities more reasonable for citizens, especially in the light of the budget surplus the UBT operates with?
Thank you. That's an excellent question, and it's a part of my campaign. I will start with our sewage rate. Our sewage rate is determined by our water usage. Our sewage rate is currently, for residents, it's 152% of our sewage rate is 152% of our water bill. So that means if your water bill is $100, that means that your sewage bill is $152. For businesses, it's 172% of the water bill. So for business people like myself, that if my water bill is $100, my sewage bill is $172. I want to at least start with getting that back down to an equal amount, that the sewage rate is 100% of the utility bill as the same thing as the water bill. And eventually get that sewage bill reduced under the water bill, because all of us know we don't use as much sewage as we do water, and the numbers should not be equating at all.
You have 3 minutes, Ms. McDade.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Absolutely. Currently, the mayor holds a seat on the utilities board. The rates and the cost of utilities have been a sore spot for citizens for years. What will you commit to do in making the utilities more reasonable for citizens, especially in the light of the budget surplus the UBT operates with?
The first thing that we will have to do is look at do a comparative analysis with the other companies that are provided utilities using the AMEA. We need to look at our rate structure to see if we're actually getting the best rate with Alabama Power and anybody else that's a part of the AMEA. That's the first thing that we need to look at. We also, I concur with Mr. Chappelle, we also need to look at our sewage rate and our water rate, because we are not using the same amount of sewage as we are looking at the water situation. So those are the things that I will put in place. We will do a comparative rate analysis to make sure that we have the same rate as our counterparts when we are looking at the AMEA and who provides us power, to look at our rate structure. We will also look at the sewage rate as well as the water rate as well, to be able to see how we can have a cost reduction plan. But when we're looking at the water, we need to look at our water pressure, but that goes all the way down to our infrastructure issues that we have here in this community, because we do have very old infrastructure, whether it's in the buildings or under the ground, and all of that needs to be able to be taken care of as well.
Currently, the mayor holds a seat on the utilities board. The rates and the cost of utilities have been a sore spot for citizens for years. What will you commit to do in making the utilities more reasonable for citizens, especially in light of the budget surplus the UBT operates with?
As I was mentioning, what I would do is do a comparative analysis with the AMEA and and our counterparts that are a part of the AMEA to look at our rate structures to make sure that we are getting the actual right rate and usage. I will also look at the sewer and the water situation, but that goes back to our infrastructure needs that we have, because we do have low water pressure as well. That affects our utilities. So we have to do a overall analysis. We have to make sure we're doing a comparative analysis with our other parties that are involved in the AMEA that provides us utilities to make sure that we are getting the best rate compared to anybody else, and also put together our plan
Do you
for
have a rebuttal?
city infrastructure.
Well, I just don't understand. I don't know what the low water, we do have low water pressure, and that's because we need to upgrade our infrastructure with our pipes that the electrical company is responsible for. But I don't know what the low water pressure has to do with reducing the cost of utilities for the citizens. So regardless of what the pressure is, they're worried about the rates of whatever the pressure is.
Yes, because right now, they are saying that
they're saying the bills are too high. That's what
yeah,
they're saying.
the bills are too high, and I agree, the bills are too high. But we also have to look at our infrastructure as a whole. We have to look at our sewage system. We have to look at our water rates. There's no way that the water and the sewage are the same. But how can we say that the water and the sewage is the same when we already have low water pressure? That makes absolutely no sense. So we need to look at that. We need to look at a comparative analysis of every party that's involved in the AMEA to see if we're getting the best rates compared to our other counterparts when it comes to our utilities that are provided to us. That's how we will be able to form a cost reduction plan. Right now, we don't have any transparency. There is nothing up there where we can see, so we will have to actually go and investigate, go on the AMEA website, pull down documentation, get the rates ourselves, do the calculation ourselves to be able to see what we're actually being charged. So what I would do is make sure the citizens don't have to do that, and we will do that to be able to give them an answer.
Well, I think Mrs. Terry, when she asked the question, she indicated that the Utilities Board has a surplus of revenue. So if they have a surplus of revenue, that means they have an excess of revenue. Well, they should be allowed to reduce the rates, because you're making a profit, is what they're saying. So since you're making so much money, why can't you now give the citizens some relief on the bill? The system was created to be to help attract industry and to help keep our citizens in Tuskegee. In return, what it's done is drove citizens away from our city because of the high utility costs. So I just think we need to just lower the bills because we have a surplus. And we definitely have a surplus because they're using the surplus money to buy property all over the city. So let's use that money and reduce the cost of our bills for our citizens is what I'm in favor of doing.
Let's move on to the next question. Again, this has to do with finances. Mrs. McDade, you're first with this one. Mm-hmm. Over the last year, we have started seeing growth at Exit 38. What is your vision for Exit 38, and what plans do you have to build upon what is currently going on?
Exit 38 is a project that was implemented from a previous administration. Exit 38 was developed out of our Tuskegee UBT Cooperative District. So that is how Exit 38 was developed. We want to see progress down at Exit 38. Well, of course, there is a Popeyes at Exit 38, and there is Jeff Potter business at Exit 38. But instead of waiting on completion of that, we should still be scouting and shopping for businesses that will be a part of Exit 38. There was a potential hotel that was supposed to be at Exit 38, but that fell through. We need to continue to scout businesses for that particular area instead of just waiting on one to finish. But we cannot just be focused on Exit 38. We have an entire city. We need something that is going to bring the people up through town to be able to live, shop, grow businesses or whatever. So we have to work on our downtown area. We have to look at what we're promoting and what we're putting in that space instead of just being so focused on that particular exit. What they're doing out there is great. We need to actually work with them to be able to bring more businesses to that particular area instead of waiting on them to finish it. But we also need to be coming up with a plan with what we're going to do within the city to draw the people from the exit up Notasulga Highway to shop with people in the community.
You have 3 minutes.
3 minutes, thank you. Jamil, I'm so happy to hear you gave a great segue to Exit 38 because you said that it started with previous administrations. It started 20 years ago when I was in office. We actually had a developer from Atlanta who had sold his telecom business, and he came and he wanted to develop Exit 38. It was Mr. JT's idea of the whole Exit 38 20 years ago. We were not able to move forward with the project because we couldn't purchase certain properties. You know, there was a church that owned the old Holiday Inn. It was in dilapidated condition. They didn't want to sell it. And, you know, one of the properties was contaminated with an oil spill. One property that was a seller property, it was in bankruptcy that, you know, Attorney Von Memory owns now. So there's been a long process. We've gone through several planning commissions over the past 20 years, several city administrations from every mayor. You know, there was a planning commission when I served as chair that I asked Representative Ford to bring it into the city limits to start the entire process. So there's been a long process of a lot of leaders, and I'm glad that you said that because it kind of icks a little bit when you hear one person say, I started Exit 38, when there's a whole lot of foundational work that's been done over the past 20 years. Senator George Clay, in fact, we had Exit 38. Senator George Clay, we almost had a second exit prior to Exit 38 that would have brought traffic directly downtown Tuskegee, and that was when Pat Clay was chairman of the Planning Commission. So there's been a lot of work by a lot of people with that Exit 38. And before I talk about what I would like to do, I just want to commend Jeff Potter because, you know, Jeff and Adria, they're the one that's signing this $8 million note. So they get, and the people that did the Popeyes, they get the world of credit. We did a lot of work, a lot of politicians have, but you can't take any credit from the person who's signing their name on the note for that development. So sometimes we tend to want to put the politicians out front, but you know, I've signed those big notes, and you can't sleep at night sometimes. So I want to make sure that Jeff Potter and Andrea and the owner of Popeyes get the most credit for Exit 38 because they're the ones with their signatures on the line. But as we move on to Exit 38, that's why you should select me as your next mayor, because we can't just wait for Joe Turner to be the sole person to go out and try to bring industry to Exit 38 nor downtown. So I have a plan. I've talked to individuals who's interested in coming to Exit 38. So Joe needs me to help him. He needs two great salespeople to help develop Exit 38. And our administration, we're not just going to sit and wait on the Macon County Economic Development Plan company or team to develop Exit 38. You're going to need a good salesperson to sell our city as soon as we get it cleaned up.
You have a minute for a rebuttal, Mrs. McDade.
I concur with Joe Turnham not being the sole person to bring industry to Exit 38, but that goes back to when I said that we don't have an economic development department, but that is what I will step up and do to be the face to work with him, as well as other people who want to come in here to be able to do Exit 38. We have to look at how it's sited. We have to look at the industry that we have here. We also need to look at whatever industry that we're bringing here, that we have the workforce that is ready when they get here. And so I've already been working with Southern Union, a workforce development state official, to make sure that we have trained bodies to take on whatever industry that we put in there, and not just restaurants and shops and things like that, because when they talked about the T100 program at that particular time, that was an industry that was manufacturing. So if we would have won that, we wouldn't have had the bodies that was ready to put in there. So I want to work on, when we get industry there, will our bodies be ready to work in whatever facilities that we put on that exit as well?
No rebuttal.
Our next questions, we have two, about Tuskegee University. We're going to start with you, Mr. Chappelle. Do you believe the phrase college town applies to the city of Tuskegee? And if so, how do you propose making Tuskegee a city that meets the needs of all the student population?
Thank you for that question, Ms. Terry. We're not a college town. We're a city with a university on Old Montgomery Road, and there's a big difference. So there are many things that we can do as a city to partner and to be a college town, if you will, or have a town and gown relationship. And it starts with communication. You know, it just simply, just like I just had a phone call the other day with one of the coaches at TU. And I asked him, I said, Coach, when I'm elected mayor in August, what can I do to assist the football program? I know you're not going to be playing this year because of COVID-19. That gives me 1 year to plan to help your program for the next year. So what can I do? He says, Mr. Mayor, we just need lights. If you could just help us get lights at the stadium. He said, we'll pay the bill if the utilities board, when you sit on the utilities board, if you can just help us get lights at the stadium. He said, it's too hot for our players to be playing in the middle of the day. Well, you know, it just takes communication. I will talk to department heads, the president, and just find out what can we do to better the relationship between the town and gown. And you know, the other thing I would do is I just want to create this branding program where it starts in our elementary classes. I want the TU students to have on a TU shirt and go and talk to our students in elementary and get them to thinking early on that, you know, as you go to the 3rd grade and 4th grade, you know, one day you're going to go to TU. Start putting it in their minds early, and then when they get to the high school, just have them steady down to having pep rallies and branding rallies, talking about TU and the pride of Tuskegee University and all about what our university has to offer. So when they graduate BTW or Notasulga, they're not thinking about no other university but Tuskegee University. And we have to start that early on.
All right, you have 3 minutes.
Could you repeat the question?
No problem. Do you believe the phrase college town applies to the city of Tuskegee? And if so, how do you propose making Tuskegee a city that meets the needs of the student population?
Right now, we are not a college town. But what I have been doing already, I've met with various department heads for Tuskegee University, reached across the aisle. I've also met with some of the students, the ambassador for the student population, to ask them what it is that they want or what would they like to see here. I've also reached out to the SGA presidents, the present one and the one before, to ask them what would they like to see here and how can we host meetings to be able to discuss what you want to see here. I've discussed with some deans as well as trying to create internships with the place of employment that I currently work at right now, which is SIO2 Medical Products, because we are in need of engineers and we have great engineers here. So I've been in the works of already creating that town and gown experience just by going out there talking with people. And as I mentioned earlier, we are on a call on a task force, and the president of the university is on that task force call. The interim president was involved as well when we started creating the town and gown relationship, as well as welcoming students back to the community when we were looking at this pandemic as well. So I've already been in the process of creating that atmosphere, looking at housing, understanding their needs, what they want to see. Also looking at, we do need lights at the university to be able to have football games in the evening time because it is hot. So I've already started that process with reaching across the aisle to speak with them. And when it comes to the students, reaching out in the community with the elementary school or the high school, we have an organization in the community that's called Next Step Up that's already doing that as well. So it's just getting more people involved in the process and getting that information out so people can know what's going on so they can be engaged and involved as well. So when I'm elected mayor, I will build upon the things that I'm already doing and push it forward.
Do you have a rebuttal, Trey?
I do, and I know there's some organizations doing that are, you know, the Next Step Up that are doing some things in a small way. But what our community needs is the city involved. So it's the city, not an organization or a sorority or a fraternity. The city needs to take the leadership in branding and working together to have the town and gown relationship. It's good that our civic organizations do that and our nonprofits are doing that. But it needs to start with the city and the leadership with the mayor's position, and I intend to do that when you elect me August 25th.
Mrs. McDade, our next question about Tuskegee University will start with you. How do you propose creating a culture in Tuskegee that not only supports but encourages students to become residents and business owners in the city once they graduate?
That goes into all of the programs. Actually, that's a part of my platform. That goes into the programs that we've already created. We have to create the opportunities that are not here at the moment for those students. They have to learn. They have to have hands-on experience to learn what it is that they're learning in school. Right now, it's just theory. So if we're looking at the housing program or whatever, that is opportunity for the students to learn the craft and not what's in the book. That gives them the opportunity to work with general contractors and construction owners, like Mr. Chappelle himself, he has a construction company, to be able to work with him to actually use what they know. Architecture and design, we have buildings and facilities that need to be upgraded. I've actually had a student to design the downtown and what it should look like. I've already have those renderings in place. Right now, we have to utilize the resources that we have and we don't tap into it. We can be able to make that downtown area run through Old Montgomery as a gateway district from the university to the downtown area. That is something that they want. They want comparable housing. They want to be able to have shops and things like that. But the people in the community want the same thing. So once we get out of our own way and our silos and work together and utilize our economics department, our nursing facilities, our engineering department, our architecture and construction science department, there is no need for us to look at an outside source to provide us with things we already have in-house. So that is creating opportunities for the students that we have here already to encourage them to stay.
Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I'm good. I want to say this first before I don't want to lose some of my time, but we don't need Tuskegee University students to help us with renderings. The city has already, the planning commission years ago, we already have the design, we have the actual design is already done for the entire downtown, so we don't need to engage the architectural department and Dr. Carla Bell to do that. We already have that done. The renderings are on file. The building commission has it. The city has it. So we just need a leader to implement it. As it relates to the city of Tuskegee, we need to just have relationships with the university to have interns. We can have interns with from the city. We can have interns from when the students, if they're majoring in education, to start interning with our Macon County School Board. We can have interns for the engineers, civil engineers with the county government. In fact, the city needs the intern with them because the city does not have a civil engineer. So, and the city does not have a building inspector with the credentials of someone that will graduate in building science. So we need our relationship with TU and its architectural and business department.
You have 1 minute.
How old are the renderings for the city that's on file? Because we are in 2020 and we want to be a little bit more innovative and inclusive. And in order to do that and in order to engage those students, we want to be able to not only provide the things that you already spoke upon, but also to be able to provide them something to be able to utilize their craft, to be able to look at those renderings and understand how it actually works and how to implement what they put on the paper. So I don't think that that's something that we should disregard, because I know of a few students have that's drawn up some renderings, not only of our downtown, but as well as our Henderson Park as well, and that was not receptive. So that goes into if I'm elected mayor or whoever is elected mayor of this city, being receptive of information and open to what is brought to the table by the university students or any citizen in this community.
Let me just say, when I'm elected mayor, I'm going to be very receptive to information from anyone, but I just don't believe in duplication of services. If the documents have already been paid for by an architectural firm in Birmingham, there's no need to engage anyone else.
Would you like to say anything about that?
The citizens would like to see those documents, so that goes with transparency. Can we make those documents available? Will the people in power now make them available, or will you be able to make those documents available so the people can actually see and say, we like this and this is what we want to do and this is where we want to go.
Yeah, the best person to contact is the people that are in office now, but I'll be happy to give them to you in November if, once I'm sworn in, but you have to contact someone else in the meantime.
Let's move on. Our next topic is crime, and there's one question, but it's a lengthy one, and so pay close attention. Mr. Chappelle, you'll be first with this one.
Okay.
A couple of months ago, there was a solidarity march in the city of Tuskegee regarding the George Floyd murder at the hands of law enforcement. However, just this week, we witnessed on video a local police officer calling a citizen the N-word and placing him in timeout, quote unquote, for what appeared to be a social media audience. What are your thoughts, Mr. Chappelle, on this type of behavior by law enforcement, and how would you address it as mayor?
Thank you, and I'm outraged by the action of one of our local police officers, and I've already expressed my letter to the city manager asking many questions as it relates to that matter. One, I understand that after I called the assistant chief to inquire about the incident, he indicated that the person was still on duty and that they were investigating the situation. And so a couple of hours later, I learned that the officer was put on administrative leave after my inquiry. So my thing is this, though: is the officer on paid or unpaid leave? Because when you're on a paid leave and there is clear evidence that you have committed some policy violations of an individual, and one of those policy violations is the social media policy that the city just adopted over a week ago. So the officer is the one who posted this on social media. So he's clearly violated the social media policy. So to have him on leave with pay, that's just like a vacation. So for one, that's not acceptable when you have clearly violated the policy that was just adopted. The second thing is whether the investigation is really being done by an internal police department or external agencies like the Alabama Bureau of Investigation or ALEA, which is the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, which is the office that the state troopers work out of. So my thing is to have transparency. I would have insisted that the city manager instructed the police chief or assistant police chief to have an outside agency perform the inspection. Because as we know, our current police department do not have the trust of the citizen that it once enjoyed in this community. So, and then, this incident has been all over the news, it's been all over social media, and I haven't heard, the mayor is the chief spokesperson for the city. Hadn't heard from him.
Go ahead, you have 3 minutes.
Outrage is an understatement. From the video that we witnessed, we're living in a different time, and it's bad when we have others that are doing this to us, but when we're doing it to ourselves makes it 10 times worse. Sure. So I am hoping and praying that that individual is not on a paid administrative leave, because that's a slap on the wrist and a vacation, and I do concur with that. We do need an outside investigation, because as we all know in this community, not just with law enforcement, but in this community, when we're doing things internally, we tend to not do what we're supposed to do because we know them or they are our friends. And we have to step away from that type of mindset. The social media policy was in fact in place just over a week ago, and that was not only violated, but this man was violated on camera with that action. So that's beyond a social media policy. So I am hopeful and prayerful that they will do the right thing and handle that situation accordingly with whatever the outcome is in the investigation.
Now,
And
I'm sorry. Keep going.
sorry. And as well, we in the community, we need to hear from our leadership as well as how we're going to handle this as a community. And we have not heard anything at this point.
Now, from what I understand, again, I am watching along with people at home. They are not able to see you guys moving, but they are able to hear what you are saying, which is the most important thing. So they heard everything that you guys just said, and I just wanted to let the people who are out there watching know that we are aware, we are watching your comments, and we are working on the video issue. But they can't hear us, so Mr. Chappelle, you have a minute for your rebuttal.
I just want to add, I understand that the social media policy was violated, and I do understand there are some other issues with the entire process, the language in which was used while detaining the individual. And I just want, as mayor, I will just have a zero tolerance for us handling our citizens with all due respect and dignity, regardless of the person's social economic status, and certainly regardless of the person's mental capacity, that we would just treat all citizens with dignity and respect. And that's going to start with community policing, with us having police officers that live in the community that they represent and serve and protect.
All right, well, we've come to our final question, and we're going to start with you, Ms. McDade. If elected, will you pledge to the citizens of Tuskegee to move beyond this campaign and work together for the good of the city?
That's already in the works. So what I was doing before, I will continue to do as mayor. I will continue to do with whatever outcome, because here again, I am an advocate for the people, and we do deserve, I'm not going to say they, we, because I am a citizen here as well. We do deserve a better quality of life. We do deserve to have transparency. We do deserve to have integrity in our office. And that is what has been lacking in this community for my entire life. And I am 35 years old. I can say my age. I'm not opposed to that, because I know a lot of people think I'm younger than what I am. But we have had a lack of leadership that we could trust and depend on my entire life. So I pledge to continue to fight for the people, with the people, not against them. Be receptive of the things that they bring to the table, so we can work together to implement them, and also build on the beneficial relationships that I've already have in place that will assist us in moving forward when it comes to our health care, when it comes to our economic status, and when it comes to jobs in any other areas that we have. So I pledge to continue on that journey after the 25th, when I'm elected as mayor of the city of Tuskegee.
You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I certainly pledge to continue to work in our community, and I want to apologize to Jamil and all the other local students of BTW and Tuskegee University who feel that previous administrations have let them down also. Many students told me they've never seen a good Tuskegee. And so I accept that, and I want to apologize for previous mayors, previous council people, that they had let our young people down. But I want to let you know, better days are coming. And I want to let you know that when I'm elected the next mayor, we're going to work together. We're going to move this community forward. And what I want us to do is this. It's okay that you support Ms. Jamil McDade. It's okay that you support Lawrence Tony Haygood. It's okay that you decide to vote for me. The most important thing is this. When this election is over, we all have to live here, and we all have to work together. So just get behind your candidate. I'm just praying that you get behind the best candidate, which is Roselle Chappelle Jr. But get behind your candidate, support your candidate, but we can work this thing out together after the election. And we can only have one mayor. Let's work with that one mayor, and I plan to work with and to support that mayor, whomever he or she may be, if they want my assistance.
You have a minute.
I'm good.
You're good?
Yes, thank you.
And we're good. That concludes the questions here. We want to thank you guys for coming to participate tonight. Again, every candidate was invited, including the incumbent. He had other obligations that he had to fulfill, and he could not be here tonight. But we are so grateful to have Mr. Chappelle and Mrs. McDade, and have them be so vocal and so articulate and so passionate about what is happening. And what I can say as an outsider in here coming in to visit when I come to the university or come to the city is a beautiful town, and with so many possibilities and things that could happen here to really move them forward. Lights would be good on that field. Yes. Lights would be very, very good. Okay, so as we close out, we're going to allow you again 3 minutes, up to 3 minutes. You don't have to use that entire time, to say whatever you would like to say as closing remarks. So since you had the last question first, Ms. McDade, we're going to allow you, sir, to do this part first.
Thank you, Ms. Terry. I first just want to thank you for moderating this event. I want to thank the Delta Sigma Theta chapter for sponsoring this event. I want to thank the Tuskegee United Women League for sponsoring this event. And we know that we can't campaign like we traditionally have because of COVID-19. And this just shows that there's creativity among us in this community. We can do whatever we want to do to make things happen in this community. We just have to work together. Let's just come up with a plan together. We already have a comprehensive plan for our city. Let's just work together with that comprehensive plan to improve the quality of life for all the citizens of Tuskegee. You know, when you elect me as mayor, when you dial 911, someone is going to start answering the telephone. When you dial City Hall, someone is going to start answering the telephone. When you call me as your mayor, I'm going to return every single phone call. I'm going to implement a 311 phone system so citizens can call the city 24 hours a day and express your concerns, your complaints, or your suggestions, or your thank yous to the city administration. We'll monitor that 311 phone number 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we'll respond back to you. We're going to improve our police department. We're going to improve our fire department. We're going to build a Head Start facility. Funding was approved in 2009 to build a new Head Start facility for our Head Start program. The land was purchased, the architectural drawings were done, but we do not have a Head Start facility. I'm committed to building that Head Start facility for our Head Start children. I'm committed to developing our downtown area. I've already talked to business people about developing and giving them tax incentives in order to do that. We have a housing shortage. I've already talked to developers about developing a piece of property that we're already looking at. It's a 60-acre piece of property that the subdivision's already started, the first phase. We're trying to negotiate with the property owner to bring in more housing. We don't need any more low-income housing. In fact, we have a moratorium on low income. So we're trying to get with the medium and higher end homes so we can have our teachers and our city officials to live and work and recreate within the same community. There are other things we want to do. We want to beautify our community. We want recreation for our youth, that we want to renovate, restore Abbott Park, and we want to create a increased food nutrition program for our seniors. There's a waiting list for our seniors to receive meals. That shouldn't be. We can provide, there's enough resources out there to provide food for our seniors, and certainly, you know, potholes is at the number 1, number 2 on the list of my list in our community for potholes. Business people should not have to pave their own streets.
You have 3 minutes.
When elected mayor on August the 25th, I pledged to continue the work that I'm already doing. I pledged to not look at just food for seniors, but food for our entire community because we have a food scarcity problem in our area. We also have a problem with homelessness in our area that needs to be attended, that was given to our administration during our needs assessment that I'm already working with organizations to attack. So it's more than our elders that are hungry. It is also our children and other people in this community. I pledge to restore the public's trust in City Hall, where someone will answer the phone, but not only answer the phone, but address their needs. I've been here my whole life and I have not seen a good Tuskegee. There is 2 of them, the right side of the track and the left side of the track. So I am not afraid to reach on the left side of the track because that's where I'm from, to talk to the people on the right side of the track where we can come together to move this place forward. I plan to expound upon the relationships that I've already built with the university to move this community forward in implementing other housing programs. No, we don't want lower housing programs in here, but we want quality and affordable housing program that fits the median income until we get the revenue stream to provide $150,000 to $200,000 homes that are in the process of trying to be built as we speak, and we don't have people who have jobs to be able to provide pay for those homes right now. So my plan is to continue to provide fairness to the people, integrity, transparency, and truth in this government.
Well, I applaud you both for being here tonight and for throwing your hat into the ring. This is not an easy thing to do, to run for public office. I don't think people understand what an obligation this is for you and what a sacrifice this is for you, whether you win or lose, for you to say, I want to lead this city, I want to move this city forward, I care enough to put myself and my family through this. I commend you, and I know a lot of people out there do as well. So no matter who comes out on top of that race on Tuesday, I think that people should be excited about what they saw and heard tonight. And we want to thank again the Delta Sigma Theta Alumni Chapter for doing this, and the United Women's League. They did so much for setting this up. They came up with the questions. They asked me to be a part of this, and they had their page up and operational for all of this time, even with the technical difficulties. Thank you so much, all of you who watched tonight, some of you from start to finish. Even when we had to go off for a while, you came right back. So we do appreciate that, but you do realize this was for you. We wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity to hear from these candidates in this way, because they can't campaign like they normally would. But here you've had all of these few minutes to hear from them, hear how impassioned they are, how much they care, how much they love this community, and how much they want to move this community forward. I'm excited for you guys here in the city of Tuskegee, and usually I am in REM sleep at this time. I've been up since 3 o'clock this morning, but I am so happy I came out here, because that's what this country is built on. This is what it's all about, your chance to voice your opinion and make the changes that you see fit at the polls on Tuesday. Again, the polls open at 7 that morning. They don't close until 7 that evening. Please exercise your right to vote. Thank you so much for allowing us to have this little bit of your evening. Have a good night, and please be safe.